Hi everyone and welcome to the eVTOL Insights podcast with me, Jason Pritchard. Every week I'll be speaking to industry leaders from across the global advanced air mobility market, diving into key topics and getting their insights on the current state of the ecosystem. This episode is sponsored by the Jargon Group, an international award-winning media, marketing and communications business based in the UK. Its transport practice supports a range of companies in the travel and transport sector, including specialists in the aerostructures, interiors and aviation components markets. Head to thejargongroup.com for more information on their services. In this episode, I'm joined by Liu, founder and CEO of DAP Technologies, a Beijing-based consultancy specialising in advanced air mobility and eVTOL technologies. Established in 2017, DAP Technologies supports international aerospace companies entering the Chinese market by providing consulting services, technical support and supply chain solutions. So Liu, thank you so much for joining me on the eVTOL Insights podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's my great honor to be here.
I'm really looking forward to this, Liu. Very much appreciate all your time and effort in the advanced air mobility space as well. We talked a bit about DAP Technologies in our introduction. Could you tell our readers more about the business and how it fits into the wider advanced air mobility ecosystem?
Yeah, the DAP Technology, I founded the company in 2017 as we focus on international trade and project management in aviation area. At present, we provide the DAP Insights, DAP supply chains, and also the DAP engineering to the market. As we support international eVTOL OEMs to help them to enter into the Chinese market. We also provide the DAP one-stop supply chain solutions to the Chinese eVTOL manufacturers. On the other way, we provide the DAP Chinese supply chain solutions to the international eVTOL OEMs. So like we export the Chinese batteries to the international eVTOL OEMs and other drone manufacturers.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Liu. And one of the questions that we were talking about before this podcast and before we went live is about how China has been actively reforming its low-level airspace. Could you again tell our listeners, what's your assessment of the current progress? I know a lot of our readers are fascinated by all the work that's going on in the country. Are you able to give us your assessment of what's been going on in China at the moment when it comes to advanced air mobility?
Yes, advanced air mobility in China, we call this low-altitude economy. In the recent years, especially from the end of 2023, the government of the CPC Central Committee, they said the low-altitude economy is the emerging industry in China. So the low-altitude airspace is become more open than before. The airspace, especially the low-altitude airspace, is the resources. The resources like the land resources, the ocean resources, and the governments want to develop the economy and they would like to develop these resources, these low altitude resources. And at present, China is the industry upgrading, and the government and the whole society and the whole industry needs to develop this low altitude economy as to promote the whole country's economy.
Excellent. And Liu, thank you ever so much for that as well. And another question I wanted to ask too is, it seems that there's new companies that are being created or doing so many exciting milestones for the industry, whether it is flight testing or revealing a new eVTOL aircraft as well. We know the likes of EHang and Autoflight, but are you able to, again, share some more details or even tell us a little bit more on some of the newer companies that have emerged and what they have been up to?
Yes, at present, the company of EHang, they have already got the TC and the PC and OC for their EHang 260 aircraft eVTOLs. And also like the Autoflight, they have already got their TC and PC for their cargo version eVTOLs. There are also other eVTOL manufacturers in China, like the Airfugia, Volant, TCAP, Vertex, and Xphone Aero, and others, etc. I think the total there are more than 20. eVTOL manufacturers in China. Some of them, they have already applied the TC, and the CAAC have officially accepted their TC applications. Every project, I think, is going forward step by step, and some of them, they have some progresses, very good progress.
Excellent. Well, that's fascinating to know, Louis, that there's at least 20 companies in China alone that's doing some excellent work in the advanced air mobility space as well. With all that in mind, great that EHang and Autoflight are making progress to commercialise and begin operations in China. But with that in mind, are there any remaining regulatory hurdles or challenges within China that you feel need to be addressed?
Yes, there's still some challenges because for the AAM, or we call this the low altitude economy, to develop the whole industry is the ecosystem, not only to design, to build, and to operate the aircraft. You need to build the airspace, the digital airspace systems. You need to build infrastructures like the digital infrastructure and the physical infrastructures. And we also need to update and optimize the regulatory frameworks to make sure we have a better infrastructures, a better airspace, the digital twin of the airport, the digital twin of the vertiport, and to make the aircraft to operate in the safely way, not only design and manufacture the aircraft, but also the operating the aircraft. But we need to go forward step by step.
Excellent. Thank you ever so much for that, Lou. So it's great to know that there's companies that are working in this space, but also they recognise the challenges ahead of that really pivotal moment where we see all these aircraft flying in China as well. With that in mind, Louis, which Chinese cities then are most supportive of AAM development and test flights? I know that EHang have been doing some test flights all over the country, but which are the Chinese cities that are currently most supportive?
I think at present in China, like the city of Guangzhou, the city of Shenzhen, Chengdu, Shanghai, Hefei, and Suzhou, they are very focused on low altitude economy development. They are big cities, so they have a lot of resources, and the local government, they have very good policies and the sport activities to develop the low altitude economy. Like EHang, they fly in Hefei, and they also fly in Guangzhou. And the other manufacturers, they have some test flights in the other cities, so like Chengdu and Shenzhen and Shanghai area.
Excellent. Thank you ever so much for that, Louis. And with you mentioned Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Is there any interest beyond those mega cities, perhaps in the more rural and second-tier cities? I only ask because I know EHang is developing the unmanned aircraft, as is Autoflight too. So as well as passenger carrying operations or the aerial sightseeing, which we know EHang is developing, is there any more interest perhaps in the more rural cities that would hopefully complement these aircraft and these manufacturers that are building these types of aircraft?
Yes, there are really some smaller cities like Suzhou, Hefei, and Xi'an and Chengdu. They developed the low altitude economy. Of course, they have some advantage to develop the AAM industry because the engineer cost in the city are much lower than Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. And these engineer costs is critical for the OEMs and the supply chain partners.
Excellent. Thanks ever so much for that, Louis. We've talked about the aircraft then. We've talked about all the work that the cities and maybe the regulatory hurdles. But in terms of the air traffic management and vertiport integration, we know that airspace infrastructure is absolutely crucial for this industry. So could you share us a little bit more about how China's contributing to that unmanned air traffic management and the vertiport side of things, where these aircrafts will land? Please.
Yes, the UTM system are developing in China. The government and authority office would like to build the digital low altitude airspace and to build the digital infrastructures and both the physical infrastructure like a vertiport. The operator, they buy the aircraft, they would like to operate an aircraft and make money. And so without at least the digital infrastructure and the physical infrastructure, they can't do that. So the whole industry and AAM and the low altitude really need these low altitude digital airspace and at least the digital infrastructures. That really matters. But things go step by step. We would like to accumulate the know-how when we practice in the real project. But the forward is the slow, but it keep moving.
Excellent. Louis, thank you ever so much for that as well. And in regards to all of this exciting movement that's happening in China with the cities adopting these new aircraft as well, what's the public perception involving around China and urban air mobility and eVTOL aircraft? Is there can you sense a public demand for this new type of technology and this new way of traveling?
Is to make sure the public acceptance to the AAM or the low altitude economy or called the air taxis or urban air mobilities. You need to make sure this thing is safe enough, and to make sure the aircraft is safe enough from the design side, from the manufacturer side, and from the operating side is safe enough, and to make sure the public is safe. And safety is always the priority and the number one issue, critical issue in aviation. So we need to build the safe and efficiency aircraft to provide service to the public. And in China, the public is very like to trying the new things, like maybe 20 years ago, and the Chinese the first time to see the high-speed railway and the first time to see the EV in China. But after 20 years later, it is very common in China. And I think the eVTOLs and urban air mobilities will be the similar. Maybe next 20 years, the public will accept safety and efficiency urban air mobility.
Excellent. Thanks ever so much for that, Louis. And going back then to DAP Technologies, talked a little bit more about China, but are you able to share a little bit more then with all the work that you're doing in this space? DAP Technologies, has it formed any strategic partnerships either locally within China or even internationally to help advance its vision and be that real support for companies that are either coming into China and wanting to set up business there, or even utilising your expertise to those companies that are maybe outside of China? Are you able to share a little bit more about the work that DAP Technologies has been doing in 2025 or more recently?
Yeah, DAP Technologies, we provide consulting service to the market like we provide the DAP Insight to the market. As actually, we provide our consulting service to Volocopter. We support Volocopter to enter into Chinese markets and help them to make the VTC plan for the Volocity aircraft in 2021. As we also have some flight control partners like the Invention, the powertrain partners like the Schubeler from Germany, and the vertiport partners from UAP from UK. And so they are infrastructure leader in the AAM area. We still developing the new partners for our business. If there has any companies in Europe or from US or they interest into Chinese markets, we would like to be their local partners. And for the our engineering service, we can provide the technical support to the OEMs and also both international OEMs and domestic eVTOL OEMs. We support them to design and optimize their aircraft, and even we can support them to build the Iron Bird of the eVTOLs. Actually, we provide some engineering solutions to CAAC and other local partners in China.
Excellent. Really good to hear, Liu, and keep up the great work both in China and internationally as well. It's a really exciting time for the industry, only going to get more exciting in the coming years when we see these electric air taxis take flight and be in our skies as well. But in your view then, how do you view China's position in the global advanced air mobility race? Because it's great to see that there's countries all over the world that are working to make this a reality for the people that are living in the areas as well. But how would you view China's position? In my opinion, I feel that China is very much ahead of the sort of the other countries in this market with all the work that they've been doing. But how would you view China's position, and what do you think could be the next big steps that would happen in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, in low altitude economy area, I think China has some advantages. First, China has a very big market. If you want to develop one industry, it needs a very big market to feed back money and feed back the capitals into the industry. And the second, China has very good policies. Both the central government and the local governments, they promote a lot for the low altitude economy. They have a very good policies to promote development and to support the startups in eVTOL area. And the third is that China has very good supply chain solutions in the eVTOL area, because China has very maturely EV supply chains and also very powerful drone industries, which can contribute a lot to eVTOL supply chains. The last but not least, China has very powerful and very high quality engineer teams. And these engineers are not only the high quality, but also the low cost. And so these advantages make China has good future in eVTOL area. And the Chinese market and the Chinese manufacturers, they have a very good scale economy advantages. And this scale economy advantage will make these OEMs go to better and better and make the unit cost become lower and lower. Compared to the US, like FAA, and compared to the European, like EASA, I think the US and European markets, the regulation is too tough. As you may know, from EASA side, European required the OEMs to certify the eVTOL air taxied aircraft up to 10-9. And from the FAA side, they need the air taxied aircraft up to 10-8. That's the very high safety level, but this means the projects will cost too much money and will burn too much resources. The projects will take very long time. This will make a big challenge to the OEMs. So as we know, the European players, they face the over-regulated environment, and they have some struggling situation with the cash flow.
Excellent. Really good assessment, Louis. Thank you ever so much. And it's really exciting then with everything that China's doing. So in your view then, Louis, it's with everything that all these companies are doing, the proactiveness that these cities are taking, with the good relationship with local and head government, when could we realistically see commercial advanced air mobility services becoming operational in China? I know it's a case of when, not if, but if you could give a figure as to when you could realistically see services in China, albeit early stage operations, how soon could that be?
Yes, for this AAM, as we call this the low altitude economy, we divided this business into two parts. One part is unmanned, another part is manned. For the unmanned, the drone industry, I think the Chinese market is already commercialized, like agriculture drones, like the DJIs. They already commercialized in the big scale. For the passenger eVTOL, I think it will take some time. In my point of view, the air taxi can be commercialized in 2028, start from the 2028, but it will still take several years to go to a faster development speed, maybe to 2035 or even 2040, and the developing speed, and it can be a big scale development. It's just like the EV. 20 years ago, EV is a very small scale for commercialization, but at present, more than 20%, more than 50% of the cars with EV run on the Chinese road.
I mean, it's really exciting to think in those next couple of years, Louis, that China could be the real forefront of this industry. And I think what's good from hearing from our contacts here at eVTOL Insights is a lot of our contacts who have been to China have been absolutely overwhelmed and amazed by just the technology and the speed at which technology is moving in the country as well. With that in mind, in your view then, what excites you the most about the future of low altitude aviation or the low altitude economy in China? As I said at the start, it's going to be really exciting in the next couple of years. But for you, what excites you the most?
In my point of view, low altitude economy at eVTOL has a very, very good future in China because China has this environment and ecosystem to make this industry to a success. Because China has success in EV area and also get success in the drone area. And the government would like to repeat the story in the eVTOL area. Like the scale economy will be a critical contribution in this area because the huge market and the huge talent and the huge supply chain solutions, this will contribute a lot to the eVTOL area. This will make the very low unit cost of eVTOLs, and then the public can buy the very low ticket and to get the air taxi service every day. But it takes years, maybe in the next 10 to 20 years.
Thank you very much for that, Louis. It's fascinating to hear, and we're very much looking forward to hearing the technology and the milestones that continue to happen with China as well. It's been a fascinating conversation, Louis. The final question I had for you is, are there any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our readers? Anything that we've not already covered about China or DAP Technologies? What would be your final thoughts for this podcast that we haven't already covered? Over to you.
So for DP Technologies, at present, we provide DP supply chains, DP insights, and DP engineering to the market. Maybe in the next 10 years, we would like to build DAP Digital. DAP Digital is the digital bone for the international trade, for the project management, the supply chain management, and the product lifecycle management. This will be a SaaS system, and I would like to build this platform and complete this in 2035. Maybe in next 20 years, Boeing and Airbus will sell their aircraft via DP Digital, and all the aircraft was delivered by this platform. And for the other audience or the maybe players, maybe new startups that would like to go into the AAM industry, my opinion is they needs to have the core value and capabilities to design and manufacture a good product, a good aircraft. And they need to take care of their credits and their reputation and control the risk of the project. They need to hold the speed and the position of the project. If the project moves forward too fast, it will burn too much resources. They may have the problem with the cash flow. But if they promote the projects too slow, they will not have the good performance. That means they can't get the new money, they can't raise money, and they can't get the talent join into their team. So they need to keep the position and keep their rhythm of the projects in a well way.
Excellent. Very well said as well, Louis. Well, it's been a fascinating conversation, so thank you ever so much for sharing more insights about DAP Technologies and the work that's being done in China when it comes to advanced air mobility. Keep up the great work, and I'd love to stay in touch and hear more about China in the coming years. So thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
That's all we've got time for this week. Thanks so much for listening. eVTOL Insights is always on the lookout for new guests to join us for an episode. If you'd like to be considered in future, we'd love to hear from you. Please send an email to editorial@evtolinsights.com. Thank you, and I hope you can join us again soon. Goodbye.